Hello everyone, this is Sijas from Coding with Sijas and welcome back to another brand new video. This is the 15th video in the UI5 series. If you're watching this series for the first time, do click this link to access the entire playlist. That way, you can watch the series from the starting and get to know what we have done until now. And you can continue from there. Also, consider subscribing this channel for more content like this. In the last video, we have seen how to integrate an OData service with UI5 application. We were able to successfully integrate a Northwind service to our application. A drawback of a Northwind application is that it's a read-only service. We won't be able to perform any create, update, and delete operation. For that purpose, I have created a new application using CAP and already deployed into a GitHub. I'll be using this service to demonstrate the capability of CRUD operations. Without any further delay, let's jump to today's session. To activate this service locally, you will need to download a new repository and run it. For that, go to github.com/codingwithsijas and go to sample OData service and clone this project. Once you have cloned this project, follow the steps in the README file to run the service. If you have any questions running this service, do post a comment. So I have already cloned this project in my local repository. So I'll just go to my Finder. I'll go to Coding with Sijas where I have cloned it. And this is the application which I have cloned. So I'm just opening the terminal window. You can also do the same in your Windows PC as well. Just open the command prompt in the same folder and try running using npm start. So as you can see that the service is running locally now. So this is running at localhost 4004. So I'll just go to my service, localhost 4004. And you will be able to see the service called employee. I'll open the metadata. If you look at the version, you can see it's a 4.0 version, meaning that we are running OData version 4. But for this demo or for this training, I'm only using OData 2.0. So to run the 2.0 service, just append /v2 before employee, and you get a version 2 service. Okay, so with this, let's try running our application. So let me go to my Visual Studio Code and run my application. So I'll open terminal window and try UI5 serve. I'll go back to my Chrome window. I'll open localhost 8080 index.html. And this is running my service. And if we look at the network, you see this is using Northwind service. So if you go to the header, you can see this is using Northwind service. Now, to integrate the new service, we have to modify the manifest JSON, also the UI5 YAML to proxy it. So I'll copy the known metadata URL part from here, go to the Visual Studio Code, and I'll paste the URL over in the OData section, which is the Northwind service we have configured. So I'll change first the name from Northwind to employee_service. And I'll paste the new URL over here. And we know that we won't be using direct URL here. So for that, we will add something /employee_service, right? Just a dummy name. And at the bottom, I have to refer my default service as employee service. So with this change, I also need to modify the YAML file. So I'll copy the relative URL which I have done here. So I'll copy it and paste it over here. So anything which is referring to this URL should be redirected to this URL. So that's the whole funda. So let me just exit my UI5 application from the terminal and I'll restart it. So I'm doing a UI5 serve. So that new UI5 YAML file will be loaded and we will be having a successfully running app. So let me go here and refresh it. And let's see the metadata call, which goes, yeah, we have a metadata call here. I'll open in a new tab. Our service is running fine, but our data is not loading. So let me just replace the metadata with $batch. And we see that there is a batch call which was going with this payload employees, but in the preview it failed because employees doesn't exist. What we have here is called employee, not employees. So let me go to my fragment. We have the employee table fragment, and I'll modify the binding. So it is not employees, it is employee. So with this, let me come here and refresh again. And you see there are two datas loading, but there is something wrong with it. And obviously it will be because of the mistake in the properties. So if you see here, the properties are nothing but, let me just increase the size of the here. So if we see here, also let me increase the size over here. Perfect. So if you look at here, we have ID, F name, last name, email, age, and salary, and we have bound to some different fields. So let me just change this to email. Instead of name, let it be name. And here we do have age and so let me just give age, and we have something called salary. Now the binding also need to be changed. Email is email, first name is nothing but F name, last name is nothing but L name. Instead of city we have age, and instead of nodes we have salary. With this new binding, let me refresh. And we have our new app running here. Now all we need to do is to integrate the remaining operations, which is create, update, and delete operation. So let me just go to navigate to here, and you see there is some failure. The navigation is not happening. So that is because there is some error over here in the navigation. So let me just go to that method for navigation. So the method was nothing but navigate method under display controller. So let me go to the controller, display controller, and we have here we have the landing page controller where we have the navigate method, and you see it is referring to employee ID. That field doesn't exist, so we'll use the field called ID. You can see that in the metadata. The ID is the key name. So with ID, let me just refresh the page again. Yeah, the navigation is success, but nothing is loaded here. So let me go to the display controller, and here we are modifying, we have to modify this create key to employee. Also we are no more referring to employee ID, which is okay because employee ID is passed, and using that employee ID only we load this. And here it is an employee ID, it should be ID. So because that's a key for this employee entity. Now with this, let me refresh. I should get this view loaded. Now we have to change the binding in the display view. So we have ID. So let me make it ID, F name, L name, and we need age, email. I need one more tab. So email is there, then salary. Just simple binding changes. So with this, when I refresh, I should be able to get all these fields. So for visual purpose, I'll make everything under a VBox. So I'll just take it, cut it, paste it over here, and just format it. Perfect. So let me save it, and I'll go and refresh this. So I should see things in the better order. Okay. Now we will do a create page. So I'll just close everything here, and I'll go back. I'll click on create employee. It takes me, you are in a create screen. Perfect. So let me go to the landing view or display view. I'll copy the same VBox from here. I'll go to create screen. Right below this, I'll paste this. I'll refresh. and we have something like this. So we have to make this an input with value. So I'll just change all these things into input. And ID, definitely I don't need it, because ID is not something which is given from the user, it is generated. So with this, we will be having 4 input tags. So we need a label. So let me give a label with text as first name is first name. I'll just copy it. I'll paste it here. I'll paste it here. I'll paste it here. I'll paste it here. So first name, last name, age, this, and here. Yeah. So we have everything. So this is last name. This is nothing but age. This is salary. And this is email. Perfect. Now, let me give a type. So which is the text type. This is going to be text. So I'll just copy this. Text. Sorry, I'll just copy only for the value. Input. Text. 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 And text. In this, age is not going to be a text. It is going to be a number. And same thing for salary as well. Yeah, so with this change, let me just refresh my page. So we have everything here. So last name, let it be last name. So what's the benefit of age? So if you see, I'm trying to enter some text over here and it doesn't take any text apart from E, which is exponential. So that is fine. So only it takes numbers here. Yeah. Now we have this change. Now we need a one more button at the bottom. Let me call it button and type as accept, and text should be something like save data. Okay, on call, on press event, we will be calling on save. Right. So let me go to create controller. We don't have anything here, so on init is required. So on it is going to be a simple function. Then we need on save, which is also going to be a simple function. So what will you do in on init? So when metadata is loaded, we will need to create a context for whatever data we are typing. We need to save it in a context, and we will save it at the end. Okay, we'll save to the backend at the end. Now for that, let me go to the display controller and we'll use the same method over here. So I'll just copy the bind view method. I'll come to create controller. I'll copy the bind view. Yeah, and on init, I'll just call this dot bind view. So on metadata is loaded, we have to create a context. So O context is equal to not create key, because we are creating a context. So let me call it as create entry with employee no data, because I'm creating a dummy entry in this context. And instead of bind element, all I do is set binding context, and this context is set. So let me refresh the page. Let me see if everything is working fine. Yeah, we have an error here. This is get model failed. So our promise get model is not a function. Okay. Where we have this error. Oh, context.get model is not a function. So okay, sorry, we shouldn't append anything. We should directly give it omodel.create entry. So let me just refresh the page. The context is created, everything is here. So how do I know context is created? So in on save, I'll add a debugger. I'll refresh over here, right? So I'll just clear it. I'll click on save data. I should get a breakpoint. So in the console, all I type is this dot get view dot get binding context. So we have the binding context here. So it is it is bound to a dummy context with some dummy ID. So how do I know what data is there in it? So let me type get object. You see it has a model which has nothing in it. So let me just type something in this, type something in this, type some age, type some number, and type some dummy text as an email. We are not verifying anything here. So I click on save data. If I execute the same line, which is this one, you see there are some data to be present in this. Let me just go back to my view. F name, L name, age, salary, email. Okay, let me just get the model. Perfect. So now you see here, whatever I have entered here, we do have a context, but nothing is saved. And that is because by default, our OData model is created as one-way binding. So we have to change the binding mode. So let me go to the manifest JSON. And over here in the model, so we have given here some models. So here we have employee service, and at the bottom we have mentioned the models which we are using here, and it is only referring to this. So I'll add as settings. In that settings, I need to set the binding mode. So there is a property called default binding mode, and we are setting is as two-way. Perfect. Now once this is set, I'll refresh. I'll type something, some age, some salary, and some text for email. I'll save and hit the breakpoint. Go to console, clear it, and just type get data. And you see whatever I have filled here is taken. So what we need to do next is just save it. So for that, we'll go back to our controller, and in save data, we'll just get an instance of O model. So I'll just copy this. Okay. Now there is a method if O model dot as pending changes. So we are just seeing whether the model has any pending changes. If it has some changes, O model dot submit changes. Okay. And once that is done, let's do a window dot history dot go -1. Just take you back. So let me just refresh over here, and I'll enter Anha, Sijas, age 1, salary 100 rupees, and email is baby@sijas.in. So with this, we'll just go, and you see here it is saved and it is persisted also. So even when I refresh it, I get the new data here. Perfect. So that's how we create a create screen. Now let's create an update and delete page. So for that, let me first navigate to one of my view, which the detail view, where I'm clicking on the navigation and navigating inside. Now here you can see this is a display only data. Let us convert that into a similar to create page. Let it just convert into edit page. So I'll just copy this VBox and the button from here, and I'll go to a display view, and I'll replace this with our new controls. So now I have two controls here. Whether I'll add one more button of type cancel, which will be red in color. Default back goes reject, basically reject button, and let give text as delete employee, and instead of calling save data, let's call it save employee, and on save method, perfect, that's good. So here on the press event, let me call delete. Perfect. So let's go to here and refresh it. Now we have save employee, delete employee. So for both of these, we need certain methods. So let's create on save and on delete two methods. So let me go to display controller. We have bind view here. Now we need on save, on save and on delete. Now we know that this particular view is already bound to a context path, meaning I do not need to create a context like what we have done in the create screen. We can make use of this context itself. So how do I save it? Simple, again the same check. So we will be adding the same check over here. So this is also there is no much of modification. So when user make any changes into the existing context, that will be already tracked by the OData model, and you can see that has pending changes will return what to say, it will be returning a success true, and you will be able to submit the changes and go back. So let's just see the example. So let me go to sources, I'll refresh. You can see there are two methods. So like for example, instead of making it 100, let me make it 10,000. So I'll put a debug point here, save. So the same thing we can do here, go to console and let me just get context. So you can see that instead of having it as 100, it's 10,000 now. So when I click on this, it's already saved and 10,000 is updated. So it is as simple as that. Basically, if you have a view bound to a particular element, any changes you make in the element will be tracked by OData model itself, and you can do a submit changes. Now how to do a delete? So for the delete, we need to make a remove call. So for that, what will I do is I'll get a first instance of OData model, because every call we have to make it through OData model, and we need spath, correct? So spath is nothing but view. So this is this dot get view dot get binding context dot get path. Yeah, so let's go back to our view where we are running the application. I'll go to the controller, I'll just refresh it, I'll go to baby, and here you see I have a breakpoint here, and I click on delete employee. I go to the next line, so by using this one, and you see what is the value of spath. Spath is nothing but this particular employee ID, which is matching the ID over here also. If you say see, this ID is matching with the ID what we have here. So we have to make a remove call on this. So all you need to do is just call model dot remove. To remove is the call for triggering delete call. We need to pass spath, and on success of this, we will be doing a history dot go back, right? So one more thing we have to do, which is nothing but, so we know that we are making some changes. So every time when you make a change, the main entity need to be refreshed. So we have a property called refresh on change. So let me just get the right property from UI5.com. Yep. So if you go to here, OData model v2, yeah. So if we go to the constructor, you can see these are the things what we do. So here there is a property called refresh after change. So by default it is true, so that is why you are able to see that changes as soon as you created a new item and you came to the list, you were able to see it because it's true. But whereas the one which I told, this is default binding mode is one way, so that is why we have to explicitly make it two-way, right? So let's go here and make our change. So I'll go to our controller, we have display controller, all good. So let's go and refresh our application. I'm refreshing it. Perfect. Delete employee. We are here and it deleted it. So you see it's already deleted. So we have done create, we have done update, and we have done delete. So with this, we can conclude for today. So now you know how to integrate an existing service into your UI5 application, how to run a local service. We have already have an example of our application service, which is hosted in GitHub. I will be providing the link to the GitHub repository in the description, and you can do a demo of it locally. And just if you have any questions, post a comment. So after linking it, we were able to do a create operation, we were able to do a delete operation, we were able to do a update operation, and read operation we have already covered in the last video. So with this, we are done with CRUD operations. So if you have any questions, post the comment. Do consider subscribing this channel. That is a good motivation for me to create more videos like this. Thank you guys. See you in the next video. Bye bye.